Anyone who regularly watches this show knows the story of Tristin Murphy. A schizophrenic sent to prison on a littering charge, the 37-year-old killed himself with a chainsaw at a state prison in South Dade. On Tuesday, Governor DeSantis signed the Tristin Murphy Act into law, a measure its supporters call the single most important piece of legislation out of Tallahassee in decades to help people with mental illnesses caught up in the criminal justice system. The law was in direct response to the CBS Miami documentary Warehouse, the life and death of Tristin Murphy. In a moment, we will hear from Tristin's mother, Cindy. But first, here's my report on the bill signing.
A lot of people that interact with the justice system, the root cause is not that they're bad people trying to harm others. It's that they've got a lot of mental health problems that are leading to behavior that is antisocial.
Governor DeSantis describing the goal of the Tristin Murphy Act, which will allow police, prosecutors, and judges to prioritize treatment rather than incarceration for mentally ill individuals detained for most nonviolent offenses.
So to the extent that we can do that and identify that and potentially provide solutions for that, that's going to ultimately be better for taxpayers, it'll be better for the entire justice system, and it'll be better for the safety of our community.
Wednesday's bill signing was the culmination of nearly 4 years of pain and struggle for the Murphy family, including his parents, Cindy and Dennis Murphy, and his 2 sons, Cody and Colton, who looked on as DeSantis signed the bill into law.
This space is hard. It is hard, but it's worth running to the fight.
Senate President Ben Albritton made passing this bill one of his top priorities.
There are people today in Florida that are suffering that could just use a hand up. It's not a handout. Use a hand up. For us to show that this is in us, right? To bring out the best in us and share that with folks that are challenged and folks that are struggling. Today's a big day.
The new law also provides greater resources and allows judges greater latitude to make sure individuals with mental illnesses get the follow-up care they need. Jennifer Bradley was the bill's sponsor in the Senate.
This is a law and order bill. This recognizes that those folks with mental illness, with serious mental illness, they need treatment, long-term recovery, and stability. That makes safer communities, stronger communities. This bill is a game changer.
Albritton and others all noted that if Cindy and Dennis Murphy had not had the courage to let their son's painful story be told, none of this would have happened.
And Cindy and Dennis, I don't know where to start. I guess maybe I should just leave it at this. I am better today knowing you.
A day after the ceremony, I spoke to Cindy Murphy.
So many people have texted me and reached out to me or emailed me, and my response to everybody was, it was a good day. It was just overall a really good day. It was something we've been working for so long. In some ways bittersweet, but it was so good to finally get this across the finish line.
Why was it important for you to have Colton and Cody there?
Cody's been following this process all along. He's went to Tallahassee with me on one trip, and although he didn't testify, I read a statement that he made. So he's been advocating and understanding this whole process and watching it very, very closely, really advocating in his own way as a 17-year-old and hoping that this bill would get passed. So he needed to see it come to a conclusion too. Colton, he knows that we've been gone to Tallahassee. We've been doing trips. We've been working on this legislation, but he doesn't really fully understand it. He's only 9 years old. There's a lot of facts that he doesn't understand. My conversations with him have been really low key. The other day we were in the pool floating and we were talking about it in a casual way, and why we're going, why we're doing this. And it was actually the day that they called and invited us up for the signing. And I said, you're going to get to meet the governor. And he said, well, why does the governor want to meet me? And I said, well, we've been working on that act and we had this nice conversation about it. But So he's been involved to an extent where he's aware, but he doesn't know the details, and he won't until he's older. But I wanted to have one defining moment where he was there, where he was present. There'll actually be two, because he watched the voting count on the board when it passed in the House. He was there with me then, and he got to experience that moment. But I thought it was really important for him to have this moment where it was kind of monumental. And I think he was a little stunned, because when we got there, we went into the sort of waiting room or whatever, and then came back out. And when he came back out, they brought him back out. There was a room full of people, and he was being brought up behind the governor to stand next to him, and saw him signing and the formality of it. And I think that was like when it really hit him. Wow, this is a big deal. This is a big deal for my dad.
Did he say anything?
He's talked about it quite a bit when we were coming home, and since he's been home, he's like, yeah, I mean, he gets that something big just happened, and that it was good, and it was because of his dad.
I know this doesn't take away the pain of what happened to Tristin, but seeing this law enacted now, and believing that it will make a difference going forward, how do you look at it? And obviously you would wish that this event never occurred, but where do you sort of place this now? How do you see the passage of this law and that's being signed into act? How do you see it now?
Yeah, I'm so thankful that it got passed, and I am so grateful to everybody that worked so hard on this, because I really think that it's going to make a big difference into the future for people who get snagged up in the justice system. I think it's going to give a lot of opportunities that didn't exist for Tristin to those who are yet to come. I think the heartache that I still have is knowing that there are so many people incarcerated in the state of Florida who got snagged up just like Tristin did, who are in there not because they did something horribly wrong, but because they were mentally ill. And I have always felt that it's wrong to criminalize people for their mental health. I think we're still doing that. I don't know how many people are in the Florida prisons who are still suffering in that way. And knowing what I know about the system, although they attempt to give good treatment and care, that it's not the level of services that they would get on the outside of the community. These folks are separated from their families and their support groups. And my heart really breaks for those who have been left behind. And I kind of wish that maybe this is just the first wave of legislation. Maybe we need to be looking at some of those folks that are languishing in there and say, hey, maybe they need a second chance. Maybe we need to look at some diversion for them. Maybe we need to look at long-term injectables. That's one thing that was in the other bill that I was really excited to see. Yeah, I mean, I just relieved going forward, but still have this heaviness settled on my heart.
You often talk to me about having conversations with Tristin. Did you have one last night, and what did you tell him after the signing?
He's just always on my mind, and we just kind of bounce these thoughts back and forth. And I just, I think that he would be really happy with the signing. I think he'd be good that that something good came from him, that he'll be remembered in a positive way. Honestly, yesterday, I think it was more like, Tristin, you would have loved this water park that we're at with your kids. We went there to celebrate. I wish you could be here today. I wish you could watch Colton go down this terrifying slide at age 9, without any fear, So our thoughts yesterday were more like that. But I think when things settle down and I take my next walk around the pond that I often hike around, he and I are going to have a conversation. Yeah.
I will always be grateful for Cindy for allowing me to tell her son's story. You can see the documentary Warehouse by going to our homepage at cbsmiami.com. Well, that's all the time we have today. If you have any thoughts or comments, feel free to contact me at jdefeaty@cbs.com. I do enjoy hearing from you. Thanks again for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.